All right. Today we're talking with Alex Ostebo. Hope I pronounced that right. Anyways, actually an Army veteran, founder of two production-based companies. One of them is Kameo and the other one is Creative Picnic. And one of your side projects or passions is trying to get more veterans into the film and television production space, which is cool. I always think we need more of that. So before we get to talking about business and entrepreneurship and what you've been doing, you're now out of the Army, out of the Army Reserves. Take us back and tell us what that was like.
Well, first of all, Joe, thank you so much for having me. Really excited to be able to speak to you and speak to this community. This is an awesome opportunity. So first, thank you. So I actually come from a military family. My father was in the Coast Guard. Both my grandparents were in the military. So it wasn't anything that was new or unfamiliar to me. And maybe even I was ushered into it a little bit, of course, by my father. So actually went the ROTC route at Dickinson College, which is a very intimate, small program that was a big opportunity and a wonderful experience for me. And then I was commissioned as a quartermaster into the Army Reserves. I went directly to the 55th Sustainment Brigade, which is at Fort Belvoir, and then did one of my favorite things in the Army, which was airborne school. That was one of the best times that I've had. And then went to the 389th CSSB, which is in Fort Totten. I actually, as an entrepreneur, went to New York, so re-transitioned there. And then I actually was a company commander for about 2.5 years, actually. The second I landed there, they were like, here you go, baby. Here's a company command position. You look like you have a head on your shoulders. So that was my career.
Awesome. Now, where did this entrepreneurship thing come from? Were you messing around with entrepreneurship throughout that, or did it come after you were done with the Army?
So I think I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. My mother ran a successful business when I was growing up. And I love this idea of, especially when I first got into the civilian world, feeling like I wasn't really getting the opportunities I wanted and wasn't going in the places that I saw myself. So I kind of love the idea of creating your own opportunity through entrepreneurship and creating a company and that could take me where I wanted to go. So I actually started Creative Picnic, which is my first company, during my tenure in the military, and as a way to get into the production field, which is what I really wanted to do.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about Creative Picnic, and first and foremost, where did you come up with the idea?
I was working at a production artist management company. It was a small company, and it didn't really feel like I was getting the opportunities that I really wanted in production. There was already they already had a really great production team. So you really had to fight your way to kind of get on set, to kind of go in the directions that you wanted to. And clients loved working with me, especially photographers. So I realized kind of after 2 years of being there, that the artists really just were like, I like working with you, less so that they really liked working with the company as much. I was like, there might be something here. I might have some, there might be some sort of organic chemistry that I have with these different artists. So decided to kind of go out on my own. And the concept was a representation company that wasn't based on commission. It was actually based off of a monthly fee that they would pay. And it was really great for emerging artists who didn't already have, millions of dollars coming in. They just really wanted some like marketing support, some production support, some estimating support in this kind of new, in this new way. So that's how I kind of came up with the idea, and it really took off. And I was really fortunate.
That's kind of cool. So your company, Creative Picnic, would like represent photographers, or you'd help photographers get jobs and then basically allow them to just do their trade, not have to mess with the business side or the marketing side of things.
Exactly. Yep. And I worked with emerging artists where most represent art with most, while most agents worked with artists that were really, really established. But I really focused on like marketing and pushing their business forward.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, that's cool. And so you've actually founded 2 companies now. So your other company is Kameo with a K. Tell us about that.
Yep. Well, so productions were going so strong in 2019. I think everybody seems like everybody's business was booming in 2019 and even early 2020. I was actually on set producing for a Disney Disney piece when at Disney World when COVID hit. When they shut down Disney World, it was really a jarring experience. And I realized firsthand what was actually about to happen to everyone and how much this could affect productions in general, because after that, in the weeks to follow and the months to follow, and the couple months after that during lockdown, this wheel of production actually completely stopped, which is, this wheel has been going on since, the 20s and before then, and it actually stopped. And that was an eye-opener for, I think, a lot of people. And I think I wasn't the only one that was, you're scared, you don't know what's going on. And it was very jarring. So actually, I lean on my military training a lot. I actually attribute the success of Kameo to my military experience even more than I think on the creative picnic side, because while there was a lot of people trying to figure out what to do next, and the military kind of taught me how to think through, how to react in situations like this, how to react when things don't go as planned, when something bad happens. And my first thought was, well, if I can create, like a rubric or a blueprint for going back to work safely, then I could come out of this ahead, and maybe I can inspire, and figure out what do productions look like during a pandemic. So I created this blueprint. I started pitching it to, not really pitching it as much as like presenting it to clients, and eventually was presenting in front of Netflix. And as I'm presenting this plan, which included, safety, staffing, it included masks, it included, 6 feet apart. And this was really early on. So in like June of 2020, it included all these different pieces. And the biggest piece that it included, the thing that really, I think, triggered a lot of interest from Netflix was testing. And they were like, well, can you do testing? Can you support on testing? And I was like, sure, I can support on testing. And actually went out after that phone call, went and just started calling labs to see what does testing actually look like and get an understanding for how does testing look like going back for production specifically.
Yeah.
And then at that time realized that labs were not set up to facilitate testing for productions at all. They were not flexible. They were only in one place, one location, and they, only offered one kind of test. So long story short, I realized that there was a need to have a testing company that spoke production language and can facilitate testing specifically and designed around productions for TV and film.
Wow, that's awesome. Wait, hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break and we're going to be right back. All right, back talking with Alex Ostebo, Army veteran. Did I get it right that time?
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know why I'm struggling with that. Ostebo. Okay. So before the break, you were on a roll there talking about how you, and from an entrepreneurial perspective, you're in the television film industry and you see this need, production sets need testing and procedures to deal with the COVID so they can keep on making movies, right?
Yep.
You see this need and you create the solution for that is essentially what you did. It was like wasn't even a pivot because you're already on the set doing other things. You're like, I'll just create a solution for this problem. And as you were telling me this, I've known from some other business folks that people running businesses, this in particular was like the mandates, the vaccines and the testing mandates and all that stuff going on. It's a really big strain and a big cost and a stressor for a lot of business owners, even the bigger businesses, because I'm set up to run this kind of a business. I'm not set up as a medical facility. How am I going to do this? And you basically found yourself in the same scenario and you presented the solution to that. So it's a very key entrepreneurial lesson there is you saw the demand, you saw the need, and you provided a solution for that, which is cool. So, so you were talking about the labs weren't set up to be production friendly, didn't speak production language. Go, where were you at from there?
Yeah, so the labs were, exactly. They weren't set up to facilitate the kind of testing that I knew productions were going to need. Mm-hmm. And especially after, having a conversation with Netflix, who was a client through Creative Picnic on the Creative Picnic side, and, them outlining the kinds of needs that they would have. And then as luck would have it, as I'm building out this, kind of testing piece, as luck would have it, the unions came up with something called the Return to Work Agreement. And this agreement created very strict testing protocols for productions. And you had to follow them if you were doing a union set. Mm-hmm. And because these protocols came out, all the productions were like, okay, we really actually do need to invest in testing. And the rubric in that was created in terms of the cadence and what would testing look like and what their needs were. And that kind of helped Kameo gain a lot of traction because the sets realized that actually testing was going to be mandated, as well as not just something that would be important to have or would help keep everyone safe, is also something they needed. Mm-hmm. And a classic COVID story, my fiance at the time, now husband, was working from home, and he runs, he was working in tech. He was doing crypto. Actually, I was listening to your crypto podcast with him before this. So he was in the crypto space and working from home. He hears me run in being like, Netflix needs testing and we need to provide it for them and figure out this way to find a solution for them. And that's what I want to do. I'd actually already even created a website, but I didn't realize that the opportunity would become so big. And I look at him and he's like, okay, well, let's do this. And he actually came on board, and he created the entire tech piece to the company, because the other thing that if you're working with a bunch of different labs, they all have different they all have different backends. You'd have to look at 10, 20 different labs, backends to find the kind of results that you're looking for. So he created the tech piece to the platform that allows you to safely manage testing and now vaccine management, as well as a customizable symptom screener. All of this huge tech aspect of Kameo was a big brainchild of my husband. So we kind of joined forces and created this company as well.
Holy cow, that's awesome. I had a thought you all of a sudden you were in television and film doing it when you came up with both ideas for your businesses, but you never told us how you got into television and film. Were you already doing that? Were you when you were in the Army Reserves, or did that come afterwards?
Yeah, so actually both Kameo and Creative Picnic happened while I was in the reserve still. I only actually got out of the Army about a year ago. But for Creative Picnic, when I left and started Creative Picnic, I took all these artists with me. I started not only representing them on the marketing side, but also producing their different commercial work for them. And I had a few artists who created content on the marketing side for studios like Disney and Netflix. So I started to get a lot of contacts and clients in that industry, and we worked a lot. Like we did like a big spot for the Emmys after party in 2019 for Netflix, and it's a bunch of Disney work. So that's kind of how I started to get into the film and TV spot. It was through marketing, through Creative Picnic. And then when COVID hit and I got the idea for Kameo, I was calling up the different studios because I knew they would have the most production needs. The commercial industry didn't have as much of a initiative to get back to work after COVID, but like these studios that are creating the content that we watch, especially during lockdown, we're only creating more and more. So they were really, really, hungry and ready to find a solution, and that's I think how it kind of catapulted me from more commercial production into the TV and film.
Wow. So 2 successful companies so far. What are some of the lessons that you referred to it once before, where your experience in the Army was instrumental in your success? So if you can tie some of your military experience and skills into how they translated well into entrepreneurship for you.
Yeah. So I actually attribute a lot to my military experience. I was always had an entrepreneurial spirit. I think I always wanted to do things on my own, but I didn't have discipline and I didn't have any leadership, experience. So if I hadn't have gone into the military and gotten that discipline, that leadership experience through being a company commander, I definitely don't think I could have been successful as an entrepreneur, especially with Kameo, because now we have 50 full-time people at Kameo and hundreds of contractors. And so really understanding how to get people to and follow you and invest in what you're saying, how to be how to lead people during a hard time was all through my military experience. So advices that I have: one, go with something and with a problem that if you have like experience in transportation on the military side, how can you put that into being a civilian job, and how can you create that into an entrepreneurial idea or into a company idea? So that's one thing is find something that and that you love and that you're passionate about. Don't try and change careers completely. Don't try and learn something on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
And then solve a problem that if there's an issue that you have, if there's a need that you're seeing, that's like a really great sign that someone needs to find a solution for that. Use the resources that you have at your disposal, like not only friends and family, but community, but your unit. There's so many people at in the military. This is on the reserve side, but also even just if you're active duty, just using your active duty community to not only do research and get really great advice and find mentors, but also, partners, people who want to partner with you, or maybe have other businesses that they want to partner, that can partner with your business to create even more success. Hire the right people, hire people smarter than you, because, no one's smart in all different things. We're not all Elon Musk. Mm-hmm. We all, I knew where my knowledge, where my knowledge bounds were. And I wanted to team up with people like my husband, or we hired a lot of people, obviously, on the health side that knew a lot about labs. So and people on the operational side that could support on the operational piece. If you hire people that are smarter than you, that know things that you don't, don't just hire friends. And I think that creating that really good team early on is going to be what makes you successful. Because if you don't have really great people with you, it becomes really difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. So you talked about when you don't know something, hire somebody that can do that for you, or hire people that are smarter than you. I think that's especially solopreneurs very hesitant to bring other people in and accomplish those things for them. Usually it's a money thing. But in the end, you end up spending way too much time and money learning it yourself. And then it pulls you away from your primary objective or,
Yeah.
if you're leading the organization, you can't be down in the weeds coding a new website or on the marketing side of things or managing all the social media.
Yeah, definitely don't be afraid to hire people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only way you can grow. And it's really scary to hire people because, you have to trust someone. There's the financial burden of hiring someone, that responsibility, but it's, for Creative Picnic, I don't think I hired enough. And I think for Kameo, I learned from that, and I hired all the different people, and that like just really helped us gain a lot of traction because I wasn't just, doing all the tests myself or, wearing all the hats.
So can you describe, like, when you had Cameo basically roughed out, or you had a minimal viable product, let's say, if that's how it went down, and you presented it to somebody, I think maybe you were presenting, is that one of the things you presented to Netflix, for example, or whoever you first presented it to? When you presented this solution to them, was it just like, oh yeah, you're in, we'll take you, do it? I mean, what was that like?
Yeah, so I had the blueprint, which had all these different factors, and it was really like I just wanted to share, this just the different knowledges and just different pieces. It was really, I wanted to just position myself as a thought leader. That was like all I thought in my head, is I'm going to be a thought leader. And then through those presentations, I realized where people were really excited. People were excited about the two things, which is safety staffing. That was something people were really interested in, and then testing. So I just kept, so then I was like, maybe I have something here. I literally just went one afternoon and like put together a website. I think, as a side note, websites are just, they're so simple, but they're so important. If you can just create a brand, like make it look like you have this brand, like create a really great website, even if it's just raw bones or something super simple. But if you can put that out there, it helps kind of, it's like making it real. So I just put a rough website together, and the concept behind Kameo, or this, I didn't have a name for it then, but the concept behind it was safety staffing, and testing. And then that's when we got an opportunity. I actually brought on a friend who, which I said not to do, but I brought on a friend who was in nursing, and she kind of was going to be finding nurses. And that's when we got a call from Netflix that was like, hey, I want to like hear what you have to say. I just was emailing and cold calling, and this actually came from connections that we'd already had. So we said, okay, let's get in front of Netflix. We had a simple presentation of just like, hey, this is what we're thinking. These are the different ideas that we have. These are the different capabilities. And they were like, well, yeah, we really like this idea of testing, and like, what can you do for testing? Can you create a proposal for testing? I don't know, like 200,000 people. And we were like, yeah, okay, sure. It was like, it was just insane. So literally it was because we had a good presentation and a website and a good idea, and we were the only people talking. And so Netflix was like, okay, great, let's see a proposal. We put a proposal together, and they really liked what we had, what the additional proposal that was just really testing based looked like. And they said, hey, can you put together a contract? We'd like to get you as a vendor. And we put together a contract. And this is when my husband started to get involved, and we presented to them. We became a vendor. And within maybe a day, we had productions reaching out to us being like, I heard you do testing. Can we jump on the line? We want to hear like what you guys do. So that's like the nitty gritty, how it really happened. And sometimes it really does. It does feel like it's hard to believe that it actually came to be like that. But it all just perfectly came together.
Great story. And then I'm sure you've expanded onto other production sets and from there, and
we've done 250, we've supported over 250 production. We've done 150,000 plus tests. And within 3 months, we were a multi-million-dollar company after 3 months of that Netflix call.
oh, wow. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Love that. Dang. That's great, man. That story. Okay.
Yeah, it gets you fired up.
Yeah. Well, so we're getting close to the end of our time. If there's somebody's listening to this episode, wants to get in touch with you, maybe a veteran, military spouse, working something similar, wants to make contact with you, how would they go about doing that?
Well, I have one other thing I wanted to say to all those people you just mentioned, and it's there's also a really great fast track for veterans to get into on the production side, and that I don't think a lot of people know about, and I've learned about it talking with film commissions, to get to talk to Kameo, and when they find out I'm a veteran, they're telling me all these really great things, and I'd love to put that out there really quickly.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, the big thing is, so there's a fast track to join the union. You can, if you're a military veteran, you don't have to pay any fees, you don't have to put in any time, and you can join the union, which is huge because joining the union means that you have all these different jobs at your disposal. It's an incredible community. And you're not out there on your own. So you can literally, if someone is out there, they're a military veteran and they want to get into the film and TV space, you can join the union right away. Not only that, but there are a ton of positions that are that we have shortages of roles that apply to military. For example, armorists. The production industry is very lacking on armorists, as you probably know from the news on the unfortunate incident that happened, travesty on Rust, which is very close to actually one of the productions we were working on in Albuquerque. But there is an it's unsafe, the few armorists that they have. So anybody in the military who has armory experience can join the union and work in film and TV and have an amazing job and something that they really already know and love doing. There's film and TV pilots, there's film and TV, tons of transportation roles. So I wanted to let that be known because I think that maybe veterans feel like this is an industry that's very out of reach, but it's actually the industry wants you. They need people that can come in on time and that have their shit together and are reliable, and that's something that veterans really have. So I wanted to say that.
So where is that, or how do they find that?
Yeah, so this is what you do. Go to your local film commission. It can be either like a city-run state commission, or a state-run film commission. And for example, even just going to Pittsburgh has a film commission. New Mexico has a film commission. Anyway, go to them and they will point you in the right direction. They will tell you exactly where to go, and they want to hear from you. So that's my recommendation I wanted to plug that because I feel like it's important.
Do you know if it's veterans only, or does it extend to like mil spouses or family members at all?
I don't think it extends to military spouses, but I do think that it's an industry that's still really accessible for them as well. But this particular program is for veterans.
Awesome. Okay, great. Thanks. And then was there another one?
No, I was just going to say, and then if you want to talk to me about Kameo, go to the Kameo website. It's kameo.co. And my email is alex@kameo.co, and I'd love to hear from you. We're also hiring across the country, so we would love, and I love to hire veterans. We have a ton of veterans on my team. So if you are interested in joining, a company like ours, definitely reach out.
Awesome. That's great. Thanks, Alex. So I'll give you the last word. If you're talking to any veterans, military spouses, anybody from the military community that's looking to start their own business, get into entrepreneurship, what kind of advice comes to mind?
I think just go for it because I love this quote. It's failure is feedback. So, the worst thing that can happen is you'd fail, and that's just feedback for you to learn to do it better again. So that's what I would say. Just go for it.
Failure is feedback. That's a great quote. You know who that's from? I don't mean.
Okay, you're gonna laugh. It's from my Peloton instructor that I take all the time. She said it the other day, and I was like, "This is the best thing I've ever heard. Failure is feedback," and just as a way to learn to be
Yeah.
successful.
I love that. I mean, I've heard it put in many different ways, but that pretty much sums it up. Failure's feedback. That's awesome. All right, Alex. Well, it's been great talking with you. Thanks for sharing your, multiple successful entrepreneurial stories. Good on you. Keep up the good work, and we look forward to seeing your future success.
Thanks, Joe. Thank you so much for having me.
You bet. All right. These two veterans are Oscar Mike.
Ooh, I hope that was good. It's hard being on